Hi, friends. So it's just a little video about rhetoric. There's some slides here, and most of you have probably heard rhetoric and some of these terms before, but we just want to have a little video, talk about it, and make sure everybody's on the same page. Cool? Great. So you see Aristotle's definition of rhetoric about using all the available means of persuasion in any given situation, and that's great. But I think of it as the art and science of persuasion. This is how to get people do and think and say and feel and behave and whatever the way you want them to. You're persuading them, making them do and think what you want, right? So persuade means comes from Latin. Persuadio means to make sweet too. So you take something, you make it all nice and tasty, and you say here, and they go, oh, that's great. And then they do or think or feel or whatever the way you want them to. In spring, we'll get more into formal rhetorical style. That's arguments, that's thesis statements, and evidence and counter argument, all that stuff. For right now, we're just looking at rhetoric as basically the way we persuasively communicate with other people. Because of the nature of Greeks, when they first started talking about rhetorics over 2,000 years ago, they like to put things in orderly structures. And the one that's most common, of course, is the rhetorical triangle, right? And we're going to start, you've probably heard of this before. You may have even heard of classical appeals like ethos, pathos, and logos, and that's great. And we'll get to those later. But really, we want to start with just three central terms in terms of rhetoric that are useful for all types of writing, everywhere, every when, for the rest of your life. And that's speaker, purpose, and audience. And they get little different kind of fuzzy definitions depending on which weird person you talk to, but pretty much they break down like this, right? The speaker, this is the persuader. So it's the person persuading. Now, a lot of people, they're like, oh, so the speaker is the same as the author. Well, yes and no. First of all, an author is a person who writes, so if you're giving a speech, you can still be the speaker, even though you're not technically an author, and you can be a speaker even without using any words. Like if you are dancing or painting, there is still technically a speaker. It's the persuader. But more specifically, whoa, look at that's like an 8 head right there. More specifically, the speaker, when we look at the speaker of a text, we're looking at how the author, the writer, the actual the speech maker, the dancer, the poet, whoever, we're looking at how they present themselves. What do they want the audience, which we'll talk about in a second, to think about them? Right now, Fred is trying to present himself as a knowledgeable educator. I'm in my classroom, right? I have some decoration. I'm wearing a shirt that has buttons. I'm making this face a lot. You'll notice me make the furrowed brow face. This is the serious face, right? I'm making it to look and sound like a teacher to you so that you know this is not some stupid hey y'all, don't forget to smash that like button right here. We're going to be doing reviews of tape dispensers. I'm not going to do that. Look, it's taped up. Anyway, so I'm trying to present myself as teacher. So speaker is who's persuading, but also how they present themselves. The second thing is purpose. This is pretty clear. It's whatever the speaker is trying to accomplish. What am I trying to persuade you of? What do I want you to do? What do I want you to think? What do I want you to feel? What I want you to do, that's the purpose. Now, we get into a lot of issues here because people are to entertain, to inform, to scare. And yes, those are purposes, but usually in any kind of writing, it's a little bit more complicated. I want to scare you to make you not buy this bad product. I want to make you laugh in order to think that this is something that will make you happy. There's usually another layer beyond that surface purpose. I want to inform you so that you'll vote for me. If you have the information about me, then you will elect me. So there's usually another layer. So when we're looking at purpose, don't just go for the first thing. Oh, it's information. Oh, it's to entertain. Oh, it's to make me sad. Why? Why do they want to inform you? Inform you of what, for what purpose? Like, what's the point? Usually I just like to say, like I said earlier, what do they want me to do? What do they want me to think? What do they want me to feel? And why do they want me to feel these things? Why do they want me to do these things? Okay? Then the last one, and this is the one that seems the easiest, but it's also like really, really difficult, and that's audience. This is who you're trying to persuade. This is who you're talking to. Now, in the real world, it's usually really easy to determine who the audience is. Like right now, English students in dual credit English at George Ranch High School in 2020, you're my audience. That's who I'm talking to. So it's really easy for me to know who you are, and that's fine. But when you like just somebody says like, here's this thing, read it, okay, I'm reading it, who's the audience, it can be really difficult. And we end up getting a lot of, well, lazy answers, right? Like people, adults, everyone, voters, right? And it's not like that. It's usually very specific. Now, the first thing that I always like to look for is, do they agree with the speaker? Do they disagree with the speaker? Do they want to agree? Do they want to disagree? How do they feel? Like if I'm talking to you and I want to persuade you of something, and I want to persuade you why you should read 5 books in the first cycle, most of you are going to be, before I even say one word, you're already like, nah, fam, I'm not in. I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm about, okay? So I'm going to have an audience that does not want to be persuaded of that. You do not want to agree with me. You're like, right? If I say, every Friday, we're going to watch movies and have pizza, I literally don't even have to complete the sentence. I say every Friday we're going to have movies, and you're like, yeah, sure, great, cool. You're already persuaded because you're on that ready to be persuaded side. So you want to look at how the audience feels. If you're a Democratic politician speaking to Republicans, they don't want to agree with you. They don't. If you're a Republican speaking to Democratic voters, they don't want to agree with you. So you have a little bit of tension. If you have like people that are fans of that politician that are listening to that politician speak, they're going to be super excited and they're already persuaded when they walk in the door. So you want to think about how the audience feels. Then you want to look at the kind of language that's used. Are these the kind of words we would use for children, for high schoolers, for mildly educated people, for really educated people? Is it sophisticated? Is it casual? Where's the humor? You got to look at a lot of different stuff because guarantee you, any rhetoric you see in the real world, they are very aware of who they are talking to, and specifically. A lot of times when you see advertising, the granularity there can be down to like white, male, 18 to 24-year-olds, some college, not a degree, not working in a professional field. They can get it down to that level because they research all the data to find out what that audience needs to hear to buy that particular product or watch that particular show. So audience can get really complicated, but we'll keep working with this. So remember those 3 things: speaker, purpose, and audience. Who's persuading? What do they want to persuade that group of? And what's that group? Okay, that's what it is. So I hope this was helpful. It went on, wow, a lot longer than I thought. That's what happens. But be sure to ask me or Miss Wyke, if she's your teacher, any questions that you have about this. And have a super excellent day. And rock and roll is here to stay. See how old I am?